This is Father Damian Richards, pastor of St. Nicholas of Myra and Hayes and St. Francis of Assisi in Munger. November 13th is the feast day of Frances Xavier Cabrini. She is the first American citizen to be named a saint, but first I have to shout out to her parish in Hoxie. Frances Cabrini's work in the United States is tied to three other churchmen, to Cardinal John Newman, to Padre Pio, and Pope Leo XIII. And how can this be? Well, that's the rest of the story. First, some bare-bone facts about Frances Cabrini. She was an Italian nun, born in 1850. She took vows in 1877, and in 1880 founded the Missionary Sisters of the Sacred Heart of Jesus to care for the poor children in schools and hospitals. Meanwhile, events were happening here in the United States. This was what she was doing in Italy, but meanwhile in the U.S. In 1850, when Frances Cabrini was born, John Newman was appointed Archbishop of Philadelphia. As an immigrant from Bohemia, Cardinal Newman saw newly arrived Catholic immigrants at risk of losing their faith in the New World. So he was busily recruiting European religious orders to come and to teach in his newly founded Catholic schools and to bring in priests from Europe who could minister to this immigrant population. Catholic immigrants continued to pour into the United States during the late 1800s. Among them was a man named Grazio Forgione. He came to the United States to earn money, and he sent money back to Italy so his son, Francisco, could get the schooling needed so that he would be able to enter the Capuchin religious order at San Giovanni Rotondo. And if those names sound a little familiar to you, that's because Francisco took the name of Padre Pio when he entered the order. So Padre Pio's dad came to the United States to provide for his family. He was one of those immigrants that came for that. Now, Pope Leo XIII, who was Pope also in the 1890s, was very much aware of the phenomenal growth of the Church in the United States. Also, he was aware of the desperate need for pastoral care for these new immigrants. So when Frances Xavier Cabrini came to him with a request that her religious order go to China to evangelize, he told her not to go to the east, but to the west. He didn't want to send her to China, he wanted to send her to the Americas. And so it was that Frances Cabrini and 6 of her sisters came to New York in 1889. In fact, that's the cover of my children's book cover. It's immigrants coming into New York Harbor with the Statue of Liberty behind. And Frances Cabrini went to work with a will. She founded 67 institutions, including schools, hospitals, and orphanages, not only in the United States, but also in Europe and in South America. Now, in western Kansas, we know Mother Cabrini through her parish in Hoxie, but also through the shrine of hers out in Golden, Colorado, and the story of that. In 1902, Frances Cabrini went to Denver to visit the Italian miners, and she founded an orphanage in downtown Denver. Looking for a way for the orphans to get out of the city, she discovered a property on Lookout Mountain that she thought would make an excellent summer camp. Get the kids out of the city, get them up into the mountains, get them fresh air and exercise. But the problem was there was no water on the property. All the water had to be brought up from a stream at the bottom of Mount Vernon Canyon. And in September of 1912, as the sisters were complaining to Mother Cabrini about the lack of water and how hard it was to haul the water up by hand, she answered them, "Well, lift up that rock over there and start to dig. You'll find fresh water enough to drink and clean enough to wash." And there was a spring that no one had discovered until Frances Cabrini pointed it out. The spring has never stopped running, and you can still go to the shrine today. Frances Cabrini fully committed herself to her new country when she became a United States citizen. And Frances Cabrini died as she lived. She spent her life in service to people in need, and in 1917 she contracted malaria while taking care of the sick in Chicago, and she died of that illness. She was canonized in 1946 and was the first American citizen to be named a saint. Mother Cabrini said, "We must pray without tiring, for the salvation of mankind does not depend on material success nor on sciences that cloud the intellect. Neither does it depend on arms and human industry, but on Jesus alone." So, inspired by her example, we strive to do the same.